Excellent. Okay, time to get started. Hi there, my name is Dani Beaumont. I am a Principal Product Manager on the Adobe Muse application. Thanks for joining this Facebook Live session. Happy International Women's Day. I'm wearing red accordingly. This is Muse Jam Session recording 195. And the topic we're going to cover today is widgets within Muse. This is going to be kind of an introductory session. We're going to talk lightly about third-party widgets, but really understand the built-in functionality of widgets, how you can use them within the application, and a little bit about how you can extend your functionality using those third-party widgets. So I'm here within the Adobe Muse application, and I'm just going to, I'm just going to start with a blank page. So I've come on into the application. I'm here on my design canvas. And when we talk about widgets, I just want to give a little context. So Muse is an application that allows you to build out websites. And those websites can have a lot of static content, and it can also have some dynamic content. One aspect of widgets is the ability to take data, arbitrary HTML, data from the outside world, and bring it inside your Muse design. I think this blank canvas is kind of staring at me a little bit much. I'm going to go off. Let me just grab a starter file to work with here. I'm going to grab this guy right here. Of course, only when you start a webinar does the person in the conference room next to you start making an enormous amount of noise. It was quiet here just a second ago, I promise. So this is actually a design that it's a starter file that we offer with Adobe Muse. Let me acclimate you a little bit while we're doing this. If you go to muse.adobe.com, it's a terrific place to hang out if you're new to Muse or an experienced user. In this microsite, this is a space that the Muse team supports directly. And in it, we have things like Site of the Day, where we choose a site 3 times a week. See if this thing wants to be nice to me. Let's try that. So 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we select a site to showcase. And Site of the Day is a great place to see that. Widgets are third-party widgets that can extend your Muse functionality. It's a great space to come to when there's something that within the built-in Muse feature set you're not seeing out there. So you can come and grab widgets from this space. Another way to access those widgets is if you're here within the application and you go over to the widget library. Actually, bear with me. If you come on into the library panel, actually. So if I go to library, let's see. Notice if there's nothing selected in your library panel. So I've not clicked on a folder here. I see something at the top, it's kind of subtle, that says find more library items online. Clicking that link will take you directly to the widget library here, or the widget directory as it were, where you can search for and download third-party widgets that are either for free or for sale. But let's come back and look at the basic Muse application here for a moment. So I've got a site that's here, and in it there's standard static content, and then there are some menus or dynamic widget elements that you can work with. So if I come out to the master page here for a moment and click on out here, I'm just about to start working with this site, which is kind of why I'm picking on it. We're going to rework all of the starter files for an upcoming release that's just a few months out for us. And one of the biggest widgets, I think, the most common, is a dynamic menu widget. The way this widget works is it will look at your site plan. So if I come to my site plan, notice I have a number of pages here: my name, portfolio, my story, contact, and then some extra content over here towards the end. I might decide that portfolio should be really called, actually let me even, sorry guys, making this up on the fly. Let me go ahead and start a brand new file. And it's got nothing here on the On the site plan, it's just got the home page. I can come in and name this something like landing. I can customize it. I can add other pages. Let's say we had gallery and we had about us and contact. I've gone in and defined pages that I'd like to use for the site. And the first widget that's probably the most common that can be used is the menu widget. So widgets are common web behaviors that can be configured and styled. So if you think about it, it's things that are repetitious, things that computers can figure out that's tedious for you to do yourself manually. So if I want to come in and add that menu widget into my layout, I'm going to come to the widgets library, and notice I've got some different classifications. In general, in the widgets library, each folder represents variations of the same kind of widget. So that's true for probably the middle group here. Social has different content, button has different content, but everything from compositions down to slideshows are all based on a single widget that's configured in different ways. So if I come to the menus widget, probably our simplest widget, there's one for horizontal and vertical. If I come and select the horizontal widget and drag it on the canvas, what it does is it opens up options for this widget object, and it shows me the current design for that element. So if you remember, we went to the site plan and set up a landing, gallery, about us, and contact. If I go back out to that site plan, let's say I jump back out here, and I decide that contact should be before about us. So I press and drag to move its location to a different place. When I now go back to the master page, notice that contact is now to the left of about us. So it's responding, it's keeping an eye on my live site plan. And I can work with the widget in that way. I can also come in and configure it differently. Let's say I want to add a second. I'm gonna definitely show you some tricks for responsive design or nuances away in the, I'm gonna try to speak. I'm going to focus on responsive design and nuances around the ways that you can work with widgets in the world of responsive. So I've got let's consider this maybe a desktop layout here, a 960 desktop page. And I might want to have my menu here just up towards the top. If I come back down here and decide that I want to have a second form of navigation, let's say I duplicate my first master page, I can come to that second instance and work with it differently. Let's say I wanted interior pages, and I decided that this menu for those interior pages should be, let's say, vertical and here on the side. So that's a duplicate instance of the menu. If you jump back out, I've got one towards the top across, the other one down towards the side. If I come in and add a brand new page, let's say a products page, notice that both instances of the menu, the one here that's horizontal adds that content, as does the one that's vertical there on the left. So for each widget that I'm going to show you, there's ways you can interact with them and customize and configure them. And there's some good documentation for some of these. If you search in the help system, we kind of break down all of the options for each of the built-in widgets. Ways that you can, and I can go deeply into some of this and eat up all of our time, but ways that you can work with your widget, your menu widget, are pretty diverse. Let's say I wanted to, under products, I decided I wanted to add a number of sub-products. So I'll come in and I'll add my products here. We're going to call it fruits and vegetables. And maybe as I'm working, I decide that I don't really want to land on products, but I'd like to actually have it appear in my menu, in my navigation. One way I can handle that is to come into the menu and configure it a little differently. So in this flyout, I'm going to go ahead and define under menu type, in addition to top level pages, I'll select all pages. It does a really pretty tragic design job here, but notice that I'm able to show off the sub pages that I've defined. We'll come back and style that in a minute. But now that I've done that, what I might want to choose is when you're navigating through the site, I might want to let users see the word products, but maybe I don't want to actually have a product page. I just want to have a fruit page and a veggie page. You can come into your site plan and make changes that will affect that dynamic menu. This is not always that obvious, so I thought I would show it up a little bit. If I come to the products page and I right-click to bring up some options for that thumbnail, notice that in the menu options here, I can decide to exclude the page from the menus. So what that would do is maybe you have a page and you have a very nice high-level navigation that you do want exposed, but you don't want the word page, or I'm sorry, the product's name to appear in your menus. I can exclude it from the menu so the page is there, but it's not included in the navigation. I can also include it without a hyperlink. And including it without the hyperlink would allow you to link to somewhere different. So if I had another website that had products, I could add the page here so that it appeared in my navigation, but when you clicked on it, it would take you to a very different location. For now, what I want to do is go ahead and let's try to exclude the page from the menus and see what that did. So notice that the page is still there. It's no longer viewable here up at the top, but I can come in and still add content, add children pages as I work, for example. You also have the ability with this menu architecture to just do a totally custom menu. So if I duplicated this one more time and went into that one, let's say I want to totally create all of my navigation myself, but I want to enjoy the automation of this menu widget. For that, I'll come in and select a manual menu, and I can just assign any names I want. So I might call this home and continue to go in and add additional bits. So Tuesday and Wednesday, obviously random details here. I can still come to each of these navigation elements and link them with any of the pages that I've already defined by just selecting them and manually linking. So lots of flexibility there. Now, as you're working with each widget that we deliver, we have a default formatting to it. As Terry White, one of our evangelists, like to say, the Muse team makes the default widgets so awful looking, you're forced to have to design them yourself. They're absolutely unusable, and that's pretty much true, and it is somewhat by design. We wanted to show you the functionality of widgets by giving you some detailing, but we also want to make it easy for you to redesign the look of the widgets. So notice with the widget selected here, if I come into my states panel and I click a second time to select that widget, it's very subtle, but there's different color changes for each of these different states. As I mentioned, we give that to you just so that you can understand the functionality of the widget out of the box. If you wanted to apply very different styling, when you select a widget, you can always right-click on it, and there's either clear all contents or clear all styling that will appear in this right menu. Clear all styling is going to remove all fonts, colors, anything that you've defined that use graphic styles will be stripped out of the widget. So it makes it easy for you to quickly come in and build out your own content. Let's go to another widget just to kind of show off the diversity a little bit. So here on the landing page, let's say the next thing I needed is a slideshow. So I'm going to come in under, I'll pick a pretty complicated widget, a composition slideshow widget here. And I might want to build it out myself, so I'll press and drag a blank slideshow here onto the canvas. Let's try that again. Now, so I've got this guy here on the canvas. One thing you do, I'm going to kind of tell you two things. One is the Muse team is in the thick of reworking widgets, and we're doing it to make them more responsive. And those of you that have worked with widgets in the past know exactly what I'm talking about. Some widgets work well in the responsive world. Some, like composition, slideshow, some aspects of form widgets, have needed a little bit more work in the world of responsive design. We're in the middle of doing that. We're not really talking about it publicly, but if you're interested in being part of the conversation as we develop that work, please come join us in the private Muse pre-release. If you go to museprerelease.com, you can sign up and join the program and basically agree to our non-disclosure agreement. But we are looking at improving these. So some of what I want to show you is a little bit kind of the nuances about the responsive behavior for these widgets. But at the same time, I do want to just tip my hand a little bit and mention that there are improvements coming along pretty quickly. Let's say I was working on a design here, and I did want to use this composition widget. The first thing you want to know about it is you have to be conscious about your selection state when you're working with widgets. If you keep an eye on the upper left-hand corner of my control panel here, you'll notice that there's nothing selected on the canvas, and it's in a page state in essence. So anything I do right now to the control panel, if I went in and chose a very lovely fill color, none of these colors are lovely, so I'll try to be kind. Notice that with nothing selected on the canvas, it made that change to the page. So it's a global attribute. If I come over and click once on the widget, the composition widget, notice the control panel lets me know that I'm currently at that level. If I click a second time, it'll allow me to select one of the elements within this widget. And with that selected, I can control, for example, just this particular element of the widget. I'll give you another example of the selection state since we're on the topic. I'm going to go in and grab a form menu here. Not a menu. My brain's not working today. Sorry, guys. I'm going to grab a form widget. And notice that if I click it the first time, I'm selecting that widget. The second time, I'm selecting the form field. If I click a third time, I'm getting the text input. So when you're working with widgets, be conscious about where you are in the hierarchical structure. The selection model is tricky. If you click too many times and you want to zoom back out again and go up a level, do that by clicking the escape key on the keyboard, and that will take you up a level. Notice that widgets are incredibly powerful. They can be complex. As I mentioned, we're working on a couple of tricks to make the complexity of widgets a little bit less troublesome. So again, I'm kind of in the thick of that in my brain and excited about work we have going on right now. I'm here at this form field level, and it's got, you'll notice if you kind of glance at the selection here, it's selecting the label and the form field. If as you're working, you want to affect a number of elements and you don't want to keep clicking in to get to that element, there's a trick for selecting objects and jumping across an entire widget. So I'm going to click once to select the widget here, click a second time to get into that form field area, then I'm going to click a third time to get to the label. Now I want to move the word name. Let's say I want to move it up a little bit higher, but I want to apply it to all of the form elements I'm looking at here. What I'll do is right click, and there's a nice feature that allows me to select all of the same, and it lets me know what? All of the labels across this form. So with that selected, I can use my little arrow key and kind of move it up and over, kind of break the design terribly. Let's come back down again. Or while it's selected, I could type T on the keyboard and change the font that I'm using for just that aspect of the form to something different. Okay, so being able to come in and just select across all of those elements is really helpful. There's also some other kind of tricks or attributes to selecting and working with these elements. If I go back out to my main menu that we had here, if I'm working on designing this guy out, as I mentioned, let's do this. Leave this guy here. Let's pull a second instance and just duplicate it. If when I select the object, oh, silly girl. Okay, with the second one selected, if I right click, I mentioned I could clear all styling. Notice, if you remember, all the different rollover states and text and such that I have on this element. If I right click and clear out that styling, notice it's a whole lot of nothing now. I've got some words that are reflecting my site plan, but there's no rollover state, there's no mouse down state. It's very stripped down. This is a great way for you to just get rid of everything and make changes. I might come in now and typing T on the keyboard, come in and select a font that I want to work with here. And as I'm making changes, notice that I selected the whole group and it applied the changes to all of them. Let's say I kind of select, so notice the selection model here. Click once to select the widget, click twice to select the menu item. So I want to actually apply a fill color back here. And I'll come in and choose, I don't know, something a little gentler. Not bad. Okay. Notice that it applied that color to all of the widget options. By default, widgets, when it's appropriate, have something known as edit together or siblings, edit siblings. I'm going to come in here. Let's change this just a little bit more. So with everybody selected, type T on the keyboard and center these guys up. And let's say I decided I wanted to do something. At this point, it's kind of a retro approach, but it used to be that menus would have kind of rounded corners. I think Apple might still do this. The middle stuff might be a straight square in essence, but the edges, the outer sides, could often be rounded, cornered. If I come into this widget right here and I say, hey, do me a favor, round out this corner and do it at about 30 pixels. Notice that it's doing it to everything. That is not what I want it to do. So when you're working, if you can organize your thoughts and you're working on a widget and you have sibling sets, make all of the changes to everything that will be common across all your elements first. So now that I have the font and the color set and I want to focus on silly rounded corners, what I can do is come into the widget and in the options panel, uncheck edit together. So with that unchecked now, if I come to the landing page and apply that silly rounded corner at about 30 pixels, notice that it's just rounding the one side. I can come to About Us and do the same thing, and I'll do that again, 30 pixels. So I get the tragic design effect that I was looking for, and I'm able to just really leverage the bulk changes first, and then the nuances or the differences. If we jump back out now, actually let's save this composition widget for a little bit later. We'll go into more of a classic slideshow widget. So if I come into slideshows, meanwhile everyone's thinking, geez, Dani, how long did that take you to get warmed up? I don't know. I've been trying with the coffee, but it didn't work until maybe now. Let's bring in a basic slideshow, and I'll drop it on the canvas. Notice there's a whole lot of options here, because these are pretty complicated. As the Muse team looks to make this more of a responsive widget, there's a lot of things that I'll just tell you we're knowing that we need to do, things that we're focusing on. This widget has a lot of elements. As I click once to select it, then click a second time. Here's my header area or my hero image. I can press and drag that to be larger. I can control how content is placed within it, how the background fill is applied to images that are placed here. What I can't really do, though, is as I resize a fluid breakpoint, notice how the menu's behaving pretty well. It's got a fluid width behavior to it. I really can't do that today with widgets. So if I wanted to, this is the painful truth. You ever notice how product managers don't really show you the painful truth until they know there's going to be a solution right around the corner to make it less painful? It's a funny thing. Why talk about problems that you can't solve? So at the moment, this is a painful truth, but could be changing pretty soon. If I decided this was a terrific design for this particular layout, this particular breakpoint, let's say I brought it in just a little bit. What I can do today is if I want to use a slideshow like this and I want to work with a responsive design, let's even exaggerate this a little bit more. The way I want to work with a non-responsive widget in Muse would be to come in and basically have this widget here. I'm going to come add a second breakpoint. So I'll drag in, let's undo that for a second, come in first and make sure Notice I'm selecting too deeply there. I hit escape and go up a level. I want to make sure this guy is centered, and I'll go ahead and pin it to the center. Let's see. No, I can't even pin it. There you go. As I press and drag now, see how yucky things happen. I know. I'm going to kind of get it where I do want it to be. There you go. That's funny. Bear with me. It's not demo gods, it's me. Okay, so with the widget selected, this is part of areas we need to refine. So notice if I just keep an eye up here on the pinning attributes of this widget. If I click once to select it, right, the first time, I can come in and center that element. If I click once and then I click a second time, see how the pinning is grayed out? That can be confusing. That is because there's a hierarchical structure to these widgets, and you want to make sure you're at the right state. So if you're not seeing, for example, some of the resize options that you want, go ahead and keep hitting escape or clicking in on the widget until you get to the right element or the right level. Now that I've done that, I'm going to come on in and say, wow, you know, at about this point, this widget's just getting too crowded. I can add a second breakpoint. And here's the slightly painful workflow for it now. I'm going to take this widget, basically, and I'm going to copy it. I'll come to my second breakpoint, and I'm going to right-click to paste it in place. Now, you're not seeing a lot going on here, but now that I have this pasted in place, I'm going to right-click and hide it in the other breakpoint. Come back to my main one, select the one that's still there, and hide it in other breakpoints. And if that confuses the heck out of you, what you can do is go to the Layers panel and make sure that, for example, on my 960 breakpoint, I've got a slideshow. Notice that this one is visible because the dot is indicating that. The one that I just hid that's on the smaller breakpoint is not visible. I can come in and rename this slide 960 just to help my brain. Go to the smaller breakpoint. And there's the visible one here. I'll name that slide 801. And what I can do now is, on this smaller breakpoint, start to adjust my content. So I'll come in and say, you know, this is going to be a bit better for this smaller breakpoint. And effectively, if I come in and preview my page now in the browser, I'm not getting the responsive behavior that I might like, but I'm here in this larger breakpoint. And as I press and drag on my fluid breakpoint and hit that first 960 value, when my menu starts to resize, notice that I've got pretty much a fixed slideshow that as soon as it gets crowded, I jump to another breakpoint where I've got more room to work. So hiding and showing multiple widgets that are not responsive is kind of a backdoor for getting around the responsive behavior at the moment. With this widget in place, let's actually undo the second one because I'm going to show you a little bit more work here. What you'll probably want to do in general, and my mantra always is, when you're working with responsive design on a page, you're going to add a breakpoint when your design breaks. In my opinion, you may start with mobile first. I've never met a human that starts by designing a mobile layout and then adds more bigger breakpoints. It's usually easier to remove content and design for the extreme rule than it is to try to guess what a mobile site's going to look like on desktop by starting with the design on mobile. You're welcome to shout out to me if I'm crazy and that makes no sense. But in my world, I find that if you start with your largest design, desktop, and then start to remove content from mobile instances, things are better. There's a little bit in chat saying, yeah, glad A, I'm making sense because, like I said, the caffeine just hit. And B, yeah, I think mobile first means make sure your business thinks about mobile customers and accommodates them. I don't think it means design your website for mobile first, honestly. But as I work here, I'm going to want to configure this slideshow now. And there's some other just tips and tricks about as you're working with the built-in widgets. If I want to come in and place some images, we'll get some scary rowing images because they're vaguely safe. Maybe. We'll see. I'm going to go ahead and select those images, and I'm going to just click and release on the widget to add them there. Now, I actually did that kind of quickly, and let me undo it for a second. With this widget, as I mentioned, they're incredibly powerful. They're tricky to try to figure out how to configure them, and it's all about clicking in and looking at your options and clicking back out again. When I come to the options flyout here, the slideshow options might change based on the object that I have selected. It depends on how the widgets are configured, but you'll find that to be true. So looking at your selection layer here and what your options are matters. If I come up to this hero area here, what you'll notice is I can control how images fill that container. I can say fill the frame proportionately or the content proportionately. That just basically says if you have a logo, for example, you may have white space on the top or the bottom, but you're never going to want to clip that logo in order to fit the space. You'll scale it as a whole. When it comes to images, you may clip the top or click the side based on the size of the browser because the image will still look good and it'll fill the container without any white spaces. So fill frame proportionately is the best way to go. I always have to think about that one. So now when I come in and place a couple of images here, notice they're kind of all different sizes. And I'm going to place those in there. In this instance, did I do that funny? Because my brain is going to be weird today. Oh. This guy may have some white buffer in here, actually. Let me do that, undo that one more time, because that's confusing me. Okay. Let's grab a couple logos instead. Notice that the background image that was there by default went away. We automatically delete those images when you place your first instance. And notice how my logo ended up getting clipped on the top in order to fit well. So that's the scale to fill feature. For logos, I would probably switch that to the other one. So let's do this one last time. I'm going to go ahead and select fill to fit the content proportionately and grab a couple logos. And when I place them, I'm not going to get any clipping or trim. Another really nice thing to know is you can actually place SVGs in slideshows. So if I live life dangerously here again, let's try to go up here. See what I can come up with. Apple always confuses the heck out of me about its search. I'm going to select just some really random SVGs here. Obviously, when I come and place those now, notice that it renders there on the page. And the beauty with SVG, if you're working with content that can be rendered as SVG or scalable vector graphics, is that they're going to scale beautifully and load very, very quickly. So don't forget about SVGs, even in something like a slideshow, depending on the content that you're working with. All right, so I've got a couple of images here, and let's say now that I've done that, I really don't want a circle to be part of my slideshow. One thing that people ask a lot is how the heck do I come in and either reorder images or delete images once I've placed them in a slideshow and have gotten it just the way I want it. When I come to the flyout here, what I want to do is go ahead and show the thumbnail. So if I enable thumbnails, they're going to sit here on the side. This allows me to do two things. I can come in and delete an image. So I want to delete this hero image. The way I'm going to do it is to click once, click twice to get right on the thumbnail for this hero, and then hit delete on the keyboard. The other thing I can do is reorder my thumbnails. So I may decide, and this is stacked kind of funny, but if I were to restack here, this is pretty much the sequence of these images. If I come in and wanted to reorder them, let's say select the blue dot, all I need to do, let me zoom in here so you can see it a little bit better. All I need to do is press and drag it, and see how there's sort of a placement line there indicating where I can drag to. So if I drag between those other two icons, it's going to reorder the thumbnails and the hero image. Now if I want to go back to not having the hero image, I can just come in and uncheck thumbnails to make it go away. I'll tell you another backdoor secret. I'll shame Ollie Pordelli, who, like a good loyal friend, is joined our session today. He taught me this. A lot of times you'll see where people have kind of breadcrumb dots. This is not necessarily a great thing to admit in public, but let's say I wanted these to just be dots. What I can do is come to a thumbnail and double click on it, which brings me into the mask. So I'm now at the mask level of this object. I'm going to drag this silly little thumbnail off the side so it's off screen. Come back to this guy, do the same, drag it off. So it's falling outside the container. And let's make everyone's life a little easier and show my edges here. Got this guy, I'm going to pull it up and drag it off. And now what I can do is come into my thumbnails and start to use some of the things we've learned together. I'm going to select them. I'll select same, so it selects all thumbnails. So remember how I did that? I click once to get to the widget, twice to get to this grouping of thumbnails, third time to get to the actual thumbnail, and then I right click and say select same. And I might come in and say, you know what, I really want these guys to be 30 pixels by 30 pixels, and I want them to have incredibly rounded corners at a value of maybe 50, and a fill color of this lovely shade of purple. And I could even go into the states panel just to push this a little bit further and have it such that the active state, for example, is a different shade of purple. So normal is the darker one. Notice I have to come in now and go ahead and move these guys out of the way. But effectively, I've done one of those cute little breadcrumby type slideshows that you see. The last thing I'll mention, see, widgets are so deep and I'm running out of time, but I can come in and select the group. This is kind of tricky. Again, when in doubt, just keep checking your selection model. But with the group selected here, if I go to the spacing panel, I can control the gutter. Notice that. Now let me show you this because it'll drive you crazy. If I click once, nothing happens, right? Twice, nothing happens on the hero there. A third time, and I select the group of thumbnails, I can see gutter. If I click a fourth time, gutter's grayed out. You're like, Danny, you told me you could do this. How come I can't? It's because you're selecting the individual thumbnail. Hit escape, go up a level. I could now come in and say, how much space do I want between them? Maybe 50 pixels would be better. And I can control how those thumbnails appear in my design. Okay. So that's Slideshow, and it's pretty terrific, but the most terrific of all is the widget, the composition widget. It's often used for slideshows. I'm going to come on in again to the widget library. I'm going to go to composition, and I'm just going to select a blank widget here. Now there's lots of options. I can come in and add a previous and a next button. I can add a close button if I'm using a lightbox. But the reason why this becomes really magical is I can come in now, I can have thumbnails, I can have full content here, but the beauty of this is if goodness knows the things I'm going to grab here. If I want to have an image, like we've done before, I can come in and determine how that image works. Notice I just placed it in that area. I could also come in and instead, let's try this, grab another unknown image here. If I want to work differently with the image and change its behavior a little bit, I can come to a placed image and cut that on the clipboard. Come to my target here. So we've got the first one that we've played with here. I'll go to that second one, and with this selected, I'm going to paste it as a background image. And I can come in and have that scale to fill or scale to fit the container. So I kind of have flexibility as to whether or not I want to place images inside this container or define them as a background fill. The magical part about a composition widget is, let's say I decide that when you rotate, I wanted to do an add rotator. So I come in and say, go ahead and autoplay this and change it every 3 seconds by fading, for example. It's going to jump between each of these. I may want what's known as a call to action, where I can come in and create a button, learn more. And that lovely button can go to another page on the site. Let's say the fruit page, of course. We'll give it a reasonable typeface. I can control the way that hyperlink looks by setting its hyperlink properties, but I can always just drop this in to that slide or that image. And if I come to preview this in the browser by hitting Shift-Control-E or File Preview in Browser, I can jump between those elements. If I wait a minute, it'll automatically rotate every 3 seconds, but I can link out to other locations. I could also put a video in here. I could put an accordion menu. You can nest lots of things inside of each of these widgets. This is all about the built-in widget set. If you are looking for a widget, something that you've seen on Site of the Day or something that you've heard about or just something that a client wants, the widget directory is an excellent place to hang out. So if we go back there again, I'm going to just go to my library. You'll notice I have widgets from different widget developers in the community that I've played with. I've downloaded these. The way I got it is I clicked on Find More Items Online. If you want to kind of cut your teeth on this and not spend money up front, in the filter dropdown, you can go to the free widgets and see what's there. Let's see, I've got a couple freebies in here. See if I can come up with them easily. Probably not. So mobile menu widget, that's very different. Just find one more. If you are looking for examples of how to build mobile menus easily, go ahead and download that. That gives you layout examples. Let's say I wanted a background video. All I need to do is come in here. If I click get this widget, because it's free and we provide it, it's right there. I just click get the widget. If I had to pay for it, I would pay for it and download it. But now that I have it on my own machine, when I open it up, it's going to automatically convert to the latest format, and it's going to add itself here to this library. There's my background video. So I can now just come in and work with it. Now, third-party widgets are developed by about 25 different widget manufacturers. Basically, folks like Ollie Pordelli of Cookie.com develop templates and widgets for you. They're all a little different because they come from all sorts of vendors, but they behave in a pretty similar way. Drag the widget onto the canvas, go to the little blue flyout, and set various attributes based on what that particular widget is about, and you can work well with it. I'll tell you, I was in New York City 3 weeks ago. Probably why my brain is maybe an excuse for being flustered is I was in New York for a week. We went to visit 7 New York City Muse customers. I was back a week, and then I was in Bangalore, India, all of last week, meeting with the team and playing with some of these brand new beta concepts that we're working on. The reason why I mention that is probably escaping me. But yeah, we're just going to call Muse Jam Session 195 recording a bit of a wash because my brain is only half present. But as I come out and set some of these attributes, I can go in. It's got a default attribute there, but if I come in and say File, Preview in Browser, you know, some days are diamonds, some days are stones, as Willie Nelson likes to put it. Notice I have a background video playing here. It's not at all attractive. Goodness knows, I think that's me doing something in the background. That's my hair for sure. But it allows you to just that easily add something that is not natively built into Muse by adding that third-party widget. Oh, I know where my thought was going. So when we were there in New York City, folks were talking about the fact that they really want scroll effects for fluid breakpoints. We add scroll effects to fixed breakpoints, but they actually brought to our attention that some of the third-party vendors like Muse Themes, Cookie, J26 have all done widgets that allow you to have animations or effects as you are scrolling, scroll effects, by way of third-party widgets. So I was just playing with some of that recently. If I open up a site that will be site of the day, I think on Friday of this week, notice if I come into a page here, this is for a band, I believe. And the designer wanted to just have some nice kind of effects applied here. Notice that this is using Muse Themes effects panel, but there's, for example, if I go to the largest breakpoint, there's the word alchemia. And if I come here on the side, there's an animation or an effect that's set up. So if I go to this guy right here, let's see, you can define an animation, so fade in down. If I come look at this page in the browser, what you'll see is as I scroll down on the document, it allows me, using this third-party widget, to come in and have some of those effects. I'm missing a lot of fonts, which is okay, and some placed images. Notice how that, when that loaded, I don't know if you could see it, if I refresh, the word alchemia comes in, which I'm probably mispronouncing, comes in slowly as I scroll down on the page. See how these thumbnails are coming in. This is by way of a third-party widget. In some instances when it comes to widget, it's features that the Muse team should build into the native app, and some of our partners get there before we do. Notice that you can have this basically animation move in even when you're in a fluid or responsive width site. It's going to come halfway to the middle when I load that image. So really working with third-party widgets to do some of the things that the native application has not had a chance to do yet is pretty terrific. I guess the last thing that I will mention about third-party widgets is sometimes widgets will work as what we would know as an iframe. So an iframe is almost like a web page inside a page. And when widgets were first being built by the Muse team, by some of our third-party vendors, the use of iframes was pretty common. Some of the more advanced widgets that are coming onto the market are actually injecting content into the live DOM or the document of the page. And I'll give you an example of that with a third-party widget. So if I come on in now, let me open up another one I've had recently. So Ali Pordelli has been working with me the last couple weeks on a Shopify widget. So Shopify is an e-commerce backend. If you search for Shopify and Muse, there's a page that Shopify hosts where they're letting Muse customers have Shopify sites for $9 a month, or instead of $27 a month. So it's a nice price promotion. But this widget allows you to build out a static website and then using the Shopify backend, put products, product images, product descriptions, and product pricing, and the ability to have a checkout or a store using that e-commerce solution. So secure checkout is all handled by Shopify. But by simply coming in and using a Muse widget, this Shopify widget that Ollie's working on, I can come in and add from my CMS. I can add a thumbnail. So notice here, let me just show you the parts of this widget. If I place this on the canvas, I come in and say, what's the name of my store? So this is my Shopify store name and an API key, which I can pull easily. From there, I just come in and pick particular items. So if I go to a flyout here, I've got a product ID. You pull that from Shopify, and that's going to be the thumbnail. Here's the title for that same product ID and a description for that same product ID. Now, Ollie is giving you some sort of dummy text just to be able to preview what you're looking at here. And as I interact with these elements, see how it's rendering there on the canvas? If I type T on the keyboard and let's see, go in and change it to what seems to be my favorite font of the day, I can override the typeface and control what that looks like, even if I make a bad decision. And it's got the words here, what an astonishing thing, right? That's just dummy text to allow me to place these things well. I've got a price, a buy button. If I now pull down on File to preview the page in the browser, I've got an embed widget that's pulling up an image from Shopify, right? That was not on my page. The name of this product, which is Jumping Jack. There's my ability to control the styling of the embed text, but the price is coming from the cart, the description, the image. If I come in and hit the buy button, notice that a cart flies out here. I've done this a few times before. So I can buy that item, I can add it to my cart as I'm working. If I look at the source code, I won't see the words make jumping to a position with legs spread wide in my source code for the page, but you will see it. It's running a script that's calling that content and dynamically injecting it into the live page. So the advantage is that if your client, let's say you build a site and your client is selling things using a shop, or more relevant, they have a blog, they want to use their own blogging engine, Tumblr, WordPress, Medium blog, whatever makes your client happy. Using an embed widget, there's a free one that we have that's called the RSS feed widget that will take any of those blogging engines by way of their RSS feed and dynamically inject it into the page. So what it's allowing you to do is, as a designer, you design the site. You decide where the content will appear and the way it looks. So you control the fonts, you control the placement. Your client can then use their blogging engine and once a week go ahead and blog about their shop. Those blogging changes, even if it's on Medium or Tumblr, are going to dynamically inject into the live page. And search engines like Google are going to give you good search ranking. Again, even though you're not changing your originally published Muse site, this data is going to be injected really beautifully, really dynamically. Another set of widgets that's doing that type of work, maybe this will be the last one and then I'll take some questions, is from Muse Themes. They have something called Connect Widgets. So if I go to Library, I think I've got them here. Yeah, so we've got CSV Gallery Connect Beta V3. I don't know if they've shipped this yet, but I can come in and let's say I want to have a really nice gallery. And folks like Muse Themes and Cookie do some really sophisticated, beautiful galleries. I can press and drag this on the canvas. And I have a series of options. So notice that there's kind of not many options for this gallery. It's got a unique ID, which is going to reference this guy on the page. CSV source is a Google spreadsheet. This is where the magic really happens. Notice the Google spreadsheet key here. If I decide I want to take a look at that, let's see, Google Sheet content template. So what's happening here, we're talking about data that's living outside of Muse that can inject into your site. If I click here, what happens is it takes me to a Google spreadsheet. What you want to do is imagine that this is your site owner and you've set up everything about the site and you want to allow them to update the gallery with their own photos and their own descriptions. By setting up this Gallery Connect widget in Muse from Muse Themes, that site owner can come in and upload images to an image server here, which is, they're using Image Safe, but you can upload the images remotely. You can define, for example, what type of content is it. Maybe it's a video or it's an actual image. Notice you can control that here. Notice he has video IDs. So it does take some configuring. Once you know what you want to do and using spreadsheets like that, so using the examples from Muse Themes, you can set up this gallery. But the end result is that your client has a really robust gallery that has lots of visual controls and flexibility that you're going to noodle around with. But once they're live, that client can make changes to the gallery remotely without having to come into Muse every time. So I can roll over to each of these and maybe bring up an image and navigate through that image. Can close it out. I can go to a totally different type of element in that same gallery. Remember, it had some videos as well. If I click this guy, I'm telling you, I don't know if you guys hear it, but there's a party going on next door. So here I have a video that's playing. Okay, so all of this is served up from that Google spreadsheet, a really, really amazing way to work with that. Y'all have been awfully quiet. I'm going to stop talking for a minute. First off, do we cover everything you wanted to hear? Secondly, what questions do you have? So as I mentioned, I think in summary, I think widgets are incredibly powerful. The built-in widgets within Muse, just really looking at your selection state and the options that come up. There are also some good tutorials in the help system for Muse. Beyond that, looking at third-party widgets in the community and just asking the Google, basically. So coming into the widget gallery here, or the widget directory, and searching for different topics. We've got main categories. So let's say you're looking for an RSS feed widget, you're looking for a video widget, an image widget. We've got some tags. You can also come in and just put in your own search term and see what comes up. But there's over 1,200 widgets from the community. Some are free, some require membership into a club, and some are for pay individually. But really, really powerful and taking the tool further with that level of widgets. Okay, people, I'm going to take your silence as a sign that we might be at a good place to stop. We're at the top of the hour. What I will tell you is we'll have a jam session in 2 weeks, number one. Number two, I promise my brain will probably be more present, more good. How's that? Bigly good. And if you have topics that you'd like to cover, you're welcome to throw them in chat. You can post them on Facebook around ideas that you'd like to see that we do cover. Anything that I've done that's worth watching over is available on a YouTube channel. So if you want to, if you go, let me just show you this a little bit. If you come back to the site that we manage, the microsite, and you click on events here, here's the session that we're doing at this very moment and how you could register on Facebook. But any of the past recordings are available to watch over on YouTube. You can skip all the scary parts and get to the fun stuff. So definitely check out the events area here. It ties to that YouTube page. If you have an extraordinarily beautiful site that you want us to take a look at, please submit it to Site of the Day. And lastly, please come to our private beta if you're interested in giving us some feedback on some of the new capabilities we have in the pipeline, really looking at widgets. So I encourage you to come over there. That's museprerelease.com. Thanks for your time and your patience this week, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.